All right, yeah, we'll lead into it, but
Okay.
so we're here with Collin Strajack, Davenport resident and local, and we're here to talk about the building collapse that happened in Davenport, actually national news this week. Tell me a little about this, Colin. Now, the first thing we heard, I wanted to put any damper on some of these rumors that I heard. The building collapsed. Do we have any reason at this point? Because there was a rumor going around that a car had hit the building. Is that true?
It is not true. Yeah, that was the original story. That's what they thought because it was so weird how the building collapsed in the
It just
middle.
comes down. It reminded me of a story. There was some hotels that went down in Florida a few years ago, and
Yeah.
that was big in the news. But you don't hear too often about buildings just randomly collapsing. So this
Yeah.
happened Sunday night. The
Mhm.
date Sunday night was May
Oh, nice.
28th. It happened at about 5:30 p.m. as far as I
Yeah,
understand. And I know that because Austin Ingalls actually was on stage at that exact moment that the building collapsed. Isn't that interesting? Friend of the show, Austin Ingalls.
that doesn't surprise me.
Does not surprise me either. He is always on stage, it seems like, every night of the week.
It's true. He lives on stage.
So the building just randomly seemed to have collapsed there. Do we have any details on kind of what's led up to this?
It's a structural issue. It was, from what I've been hearing from people who have lived there and are familiar with the area. I lived in the building like 8 years ago,
Really?
which is a fun fact.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Did you notice that there were structural issues at the time of you living there only 5 years ago?
I didn't really pay much attention to that
Not a
kind of
lot
thing.
of jumping.
Yeah, I didn't like it was that's the back of the building, so I wouldn't really pay that much attention to the back of the building. I mean, I parked back there, but that's it. Uh, but yeah, there's been a lot of people talking about some of the damage that's kind of built up with mainly the bricks that were it they were just it's just a really old building. It's over 100 years old.
I
So,
see, and some people have been saying there have been complaints. Apparently, news as of this morning, Wednesday, May 31st, news of this morning, the owner of the building has been fined a relatively low amount. Did you see that, Colin?
I did not see the fine that I did not see that.
It
No.
was within the hundreds, it seemed like. Maybe that was just a headline. We're gonna have to wait and see exactly what the fallout is for him. But apparently, a lot of people are angry. Within 24 hours, they were talking about bringing the building down. Is that right?
That is correct, and
And
that's why a
only
lot of people
36 hours after the initial collapse, a woman was found outside the window asking for help. It's something like that. Is that correct?
that's correct. It was actually a little over 24 hours after the building collapsed.
So they're talking about bringing the building down, yet there are still people clearly inside, people begging to get their pets out of the building too. So what happens there? How did that? Why did they go ahead and not decide? Do you think that the people that went ahead and so there were these protests, is what I'm getting to. There were these protests outside the building. Tell us a little about because you were there live at the protest. Who organized these, first of all?
It was very like organic. There was just all of a sudden I got an invite. I didn't know the person. It just kind of snowball effect and just it wasn't not like an organization that organized. It
That's
was
great. Just people in the community joining
yeah.
together,
It was
say we need to be
that
down there
was
right now.
that was the main like the most positive thing about this whole thing is a lot of the community came together and continues to come together to help and to try to like get down to figuring out what really happened and also more importantly trying to figure out what's going on with there's two people that are unaccounted for and helping all the people that are now without a home.
Even up at Wednesday night, there are two people unaccounted for. That can't be good news. They certainly need to figure something out
Yeah.
about that. The the protests, so they were going to bring down the building. They've decided not to at this point. And
Yep.
since then, during the protests, they were able to authorize a new search and rescue team that pulled multiple animals out of the building.
Yep. That's correct. Which is uh I don't know if that would have happened if people wouldn't have protested, to be honest with you.
No, that's exactly right. It's very hopeful when people around the community kind of get together. So, what was you were down live. What was the feeling like? What was kind of the atmosphere down at the protests?
Very emotional. People were very upset. And
Were they angry? Were they sad? Were they worried? What?
angry and worried, uh, frustrated, mixture of emotions. But the family was down there of one of the people that is still not accounted for. Brandon. I cannot remember his last name, but I can send that to you.
And it's not only the people that are unaccounted for. I've really seen the community getting behind people who don't have a home or don't know what
Yeah.
they're going to do with their future. There's a lot of people who've lost their entire livelihood in
Yep.
that building because they were only allowed to leave with the clothes on their back, of course.
Yep. Yep. They just had to evacuate as soon as
I mean,
possible.
I can't imagine being without my phone for a day, let alone all the things that you must have left in that building. It's certainly terrifying. So the dust, unfortunately, really hasn't settled at this event. What's the future? What do you think is going to be happening in the next few days here? They're still talking about bringing down the building. What's their plan? Are you kind of caught up on what their plan might be, the city of Davenport?
The city of Davenport has been very vague about their plans. They come out with something recently, actually this evening, and they said that they're reviewing the structure and of the building because they're afraid that it's going to collapse on its own further,
Of
like cause
course.
more damage. And there's buildings close to it as well. The library's across the street, and then there's businesses not far from there as
Are
well.
all the roads closed surrounding it, though? That
Yeah,
must be
it's
affecting all of
all
the businesses
it's
around
all
that
fenced.
area.
Yeah, the businesses can't that are the closest businesses by there can't operate right now.
I'm sure that's motivating why they want to kind of collapse it so quickly and get things moved on there.
Yeah, and yeah, that and it's just gonna and the more they try to search, that's another thing that they brought up about searching is like they're worried about going in there and searching through the rubble, like through the main part that's really in bad shape. Is they're afraid one of the people searching it's gonna collapse on them.
Of
So
course.
it's kind of it's a very touchy.
You'd think all these talks of AI, we'd have some sort of solution to get underneath that rubble, at least to figure out if that's where the people are. It's going to be tough to kind of make a decision when there are people just out missing in the world there.
Yeah,
Hopefully they're safe, but you really can't tell right now.
you don't know. I mean, people can survive for a good amount of time in some pretty difficult conditions. You
The
never really.
clock is ticking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, Colin, that's great. I really appreciate you giving us that update. Of course, it was national news, and we really want to kind of have something that's not just coming from one of those mainstream platforms, that's coming from somebody local who's talking with everybody there that's involved with the project there. Do you have any final words that you want to kind of anything that we missed or that's important to talk about?
I know there's resources available for the people that are without housing now and trying to start their lives over. There's different GoFundMe's and different. There's actually some relief fund, like a disaster relief fund, on the Davenport, Iowa website. Like
Davenport, Iowa website. So that would be
I
something
think
like davenportiowa.gov or something. You Google that and Davenport, Iowa website, and there is a relief fund there. What was that website? What was that Facebook group that connected you? Do you recall? What was that Facebook group that's kind of rallying everybody to be behind what we need to do here?
a friend was sent that, and they sent it to me. My friend Elrod. I don't know if you know Elrod. She's a comedian as well.
No.
Um, she sent me the links, so I didn't even get it from a group.
I see, definitely. Well, if you're on Facebook, keep an eye out for all of those relief statuses that are going out there and make sure you're being helpful. Thanks again, Colin, for talking with us today. It's so great that we have you as a friend of the show now. It's so funny that you're the local there that we wanted to talk to, and you've also just been on the show the
Yeah.
week before. So it's so perfect. It's so good to see you again. You're such a pleasure. Colin, thank you again.
David Collin. 30 minutes. Show with David Collin.